Hello, hello, hello. I'm here today with Victor Domatz, and Victor's just attempted the CTA review board. And today we're going to discuss with him on a bit about his experience and a bit about the data migration part on the CTA review board and anything related to that. So tell us a bit about yourself, David. No, Victor.
Victor. So first of all, I'm happy to be here. I work as a consultant for Uptima. I live in North Carolina, US. Originally, I was born in Belarus, but most of my life I lived in Israel. Married, +3, 40 years old. Attempted the review board without a success. I got a few days ago the results, but happy to be here, and we'll try to share my experience without obviously sharing whatever I cannot share about the review board.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. And to everyone, my name is Hermanni Toivo. I'm a Salesforce architect, passed the CTA review board last spring, and I do CTA coaching nowadays and help people get through the review board. All right, so let's get to it. So, well, in terms of the review board experience, how have you been preparing for it?
I was preparing exactly for 54 weeks, 1 year and 2 weeks. Basically, I had a few studies group, not more than two each time, which I met almost daily. Solved around 2 mocks on average per week. Presented them sometimes for different groups, review them, solidify the gaps, and solve the mock again. So overall, around 25-30 hours per week, and yeah.
That's the sort of normal for the CTA review board. At least I remember doing it myself as well.
This is the minimum, I think. People say, hey, 10 hours a week. No, guys, it's a lie. If you don't invest 25 hours per week, each week for at least 9 months, the chances are pretty slim.
Yeah. The way actually I got your information is that you were referred to me by Johan as a, well, he said that you're quite the expert when it comes to the data migration part on the CTA review board. So tell us a bit about sort of on the review board, one of the things you have to do is, of course, plan for data migration, how you ramp down the systems, all that. So tell us a bit about sort of your approach into how you solve the requirements around the data migration for the review board.
I like the fact that Johan's saying such a nice things all the time. So I don't see myself as an expert, but I believe I have quite a bit of experience about integrating and data loading. They are kind of twin brothers. The best approach, if you haven't tried that, try to work with some middleware tool, whether it's Boomi, Jitterbit, or Mule, obviously, and just to try to data load stuff, just to feel how it feels, how it looks and feels. Then it's all about preparing the minimal, as I see it. And again, many people have many opinions. Prepare a simple slide with some keywords to remind you what are the steps needs to be done, and all the rest, explain it as you will explain to a coworker what are the steps that needs to be done in order to be able to data load, with all the pitfalls and all the problems that you might meet with and how you mitigate that.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about what would be these sort of common pitfalls you might need to mitigate. Of course, every scenario is different, but there's nothing new in the world.
Right. So you have many generic stuff, like everybody say Big Bang or gradual and stuff like that, because you have many countries, but it's much more deep than that, because you might go live gradually, but sometimes you need to push all the data at once, because you might have a customer with some, I don't know, assets in different countries, and then you need to take care of the duplications and all. So one of them is think well when you say Big Bang or gradual, because you can be grilled on that. So imagine how it's going to work. This is issue number one. Issue number two, this is the biggest that people miss. Deduplication, everybody has this keyword ETL. I work with different ETLs, like 5 types during the last 6 years. ETL is not doing any magic. Most of the stuff you need to add logic, you need to take logic for people, add this logic. It has some functionalities which can support you, but still you need to build that logic, and there is a lot of manual additional steps to do and to revise and review. ETL is not doing that for you. So if you have a requirement about data duplication, you don't need to spend 3 minutes to explain all of that, but keep in mind that you need to give some information, and if you will be asked, you need to mention that. Also stuff that people, I think, many times miss, and this is what I saw in mocks that I judge with my friends and classmates, is about if you have duplication in the ERP system, you can assume that you can save Salesforce ID in that system, but sometimes it's not possible. How do you cope with that? In which, when do you need MDM and when you can go without, right? Again, not necessarily you have to mention all of that, otherwise you will speak 15 minutes about this topic, but you need to be ready with all the ramifications and to be able to explain that. And obviously, above all the regular stuff that you need, like plus sharing, defer sharing, and sometimes deactivate automation. But keep in mind, sometimes you cannot deactivate automation, because once you create, you have some additional logic to happen to create additional stuff. So you have to have this automation maybe. So it's not one size fits all, and you need always to keep in mind to be ready in the Q&A to address that.
Yeah, this part that you mentioned about needing to deduplicate the data, not just for Salesforce, but also if there's duplicate records in an ERP system and we're integrating Salesforce with that ERP, you won't believe how many mocks I've judged where this has been missed as a requirement, where it specifically states out in the scenario that ERP has lots of duplicate data, and then they have regional CRMs that are being replaced by Salesforce. We can't just upload data to Salesforce. We have to upload data to the ERP as well. And we have to establish this type of golden record. And whether or not we need MDM is a different question, because I think you can do this kind of deduplication, establish the golden record without doing MDM. It's totally possible, but you just need to mention it in the scenario that you need to do that.
Right. You have many ways to solve the same problems. From my experience with customers as a consultant, most of the companies are not going through a process of cleansing data in the ERP. As someone who worked previously as a customer, sometimes you don't know where to begin from. So it's not being addressed enough. And again, you can be grilled in this journey on so many topics that those small steps or stuff are usually being missed. And this is good that you are having this video, this conversation. People will, but potentially some of the people will start thinking about that more deeply, and then implement in the daily job tasks. So.
Yeah, I agree. Because the data migration is like, everybody's like, oh, we just take data from one place and push it to another. You know, it's one of those slides in the review board where you just have a template, you just draw it out, and then you have the same talk track every time. But then what happens is if your migration strategy doesn't align with your rollout strategy, or doesn't align with this deduplication requirement, or whatever is there, because it's one of those sections where there are still things that are scenario specific, even though the bulk of it is very often the same.
Right, and you have also many additional steps, like everybody many times introduce CTL Informatica, and sometimes you can do it with MuleSoft, right? You don't really need a designated ETL, and sometimes you might not, the ETL won't use bulk API, and then you will consume your all APIs per day. It happened to me many times in the project. You data load stuff, and suddenly you get this error, and you need to approach Salesforce to increase the limit API limits, or it might take a few days to upload data, right? So all of this stuff you need to be aware of. Like the modern ETLs are decided by themselves sometimes if to use bulk API or just REST call. But what if it won't do that, or what if the method that you are uploading is not best practice, and then you're just consuming APIs, and suddenly within these windows that you intended to upload millions of records, suddenly you get stuck because you don't have any more API calls. All your production will be stuck as well. Integration won't work, right? So those are the stuff that, again, you don't need to mention. You need to think upfront how you avoid those pitfalls.
Yeah, exactly. And knowing how, as you said in the beginning, knowing how the ETL works, testing it out a bit, just trying it out for yourself, what kind of stuff you have to do. But it's, as you said, it's not a magic tool that will take care of the data migration on its own. You have to configure all the migration scripts, where it takes the source data from, what it does to transform it into the right format. And then also you have to test the data migration. And the way that you test data migration, can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so by the way, I see in data migration and integration, they are kind of twin brothers. As I mentioned, many people also say integration is just mapping, but it's so much more than that, right? One thing that I forgot to mention, we also I never asked no one, and no one asked me, how do you create connection between the systems? Sometimes it's not that simple, right? But again, like with integration and data loading, to your question, initially you want to see that it's working at all. You won't start a job that will last for 12 hours to see after 6 hours that everything is broken. So you always try with one record, just to see if the mapping is correct, that Salesforce or other system are getting the communication and the mapping. Once you succeed to do one, you do a bit more, like 10, 20. If you succeed with them, you are trying to exceed the batch size, like you are doing 300, 100, 400. Only once you succeed with those, you try a few thousands, and then you push it all and hope for the best that it won't break then, right? So it's a gradual process. You don't want to push too much. And I guess it works again for the integration or for any development that we are doing in any system. Initially, you are doing like a unit test, right? Just to see that it's working. Then you begin to see how scalable it is. Same principle.
Yeah, exactly. Are there any good mock scenarios that you could recommend that have, data migration requirements specific to them?
I think the best mock scenarios, although I hated them until a few months ago, are Flow Republic scenarios. They are so long and difficult and unclear, and you can solve in so many ways. So people who are part of Flow Republic, I think those are the best, right? From what there are out there, Tamim's scenarios are very nice. I think it's covered pretty nice, and he has the solution in the book. Although I cannot say that I agree with everything, but 90% of the solution I agree with, and the explanation is very nice, which is the best stuff. Salesforce scenarios are nice. I think you should do them because it's Salesforce scenario. You should do them very carefully. It's not necessarily the longest one. Like Megaprint, obviously, it's a new structure. It's a nice one. They are nice to see what you're about to expect to get, but not necessarily you will get the same level of difficulty in the actual exam. So
Megaprint's my favorite scenario because of the structure.
Megaprint is a nice one, but again, it cannot compete with Flow Republics. If you take Newswork, which is similar to extraction to Megaprint, it's a complete different game.
Yeah, and there's public Flow Republic ones that are out there, and then there's also ones that you only can access if you are part of the Flow Republic program. I think Newswork is one of those that is only part of the program. So if you want some really good books, I can also recommend Flow Republic. That's how I became a CTA. They have some pretty great resources, and also some really you find people who are also dedicated to becoming CTAs that you can work and study with. So I also recommend Flow Republic if you're interested in becoming a CTA.
I think nowadays, unless you work for Accenture or Salesforce, and they have good programs with coaches. Sorry. I think Flow Republic or some kind of coaching it's quite a must. Very difficult, even if you are well experienced. And their mocks that are part of the program are the best. One mock that is popping to my mind is, I think it was the Muda Water. I think it has a really pretty section of DevOps and data loading, like a huge section. But again, it's something really easy to see. You just open a mock, you go into one of the last sections, and you see the stuff. Many times data loading also related to LDV, so they are kind of twin brothers. So then you need to, shift between them, external object, or I expose it through LWC, how often I archive them. Many times I had a discussion with my classmates. If you have a Roku, do you need data warehouse? So I'm in opinion, you have a Roku, this is your data warehouse. Many people disagree. They say, no, we still have to have that. So it's something that also worth considering. Not necessarily I have the right answer, and maybe there is no right answer, but something that you need to be prepared. You have a Roku, do you want additional data warehouse?
Yeah.
So it's a good discussion to have, and maybe there is no right or wrong answer here, but it's a discussion that you have to have.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. So is there some message that, to wrap things up, that you want to send to anybody on their journey to CTA about data migration or anything else?
The only message, and I think most of the people that are close to a review board, they feel that it's very difficult to get all the knowledge and remember everything and to be able to use. It's difficult but achievable, and it takes a certain amount of time. The more difficult stuff is the communication to present that message. Because I saw it with myself and many other people. Okay, you solve the mock within time, you solve it well, and then the presentation becomes kind of a challenge. How you present well, that you cover all of that and that it will be understood. It's quite a challenge. So my advice, each topic that you cover, speak to yourself or to your spouse or whatever, try to explain that to a person that completely unrelated in a way that they will understand what's going on. If you cannot do that, all your technical knowledge won't suffice for the board. You have to be able to communicate that well. It's something that I'm trying to improve for myself, and it's very difficult because it's not like what's time today, you know how to read the watch, you just say it. You cannot just memorize everything. You need kind of to reprogram yourself to be able to communicate better, not only for CTA, but generally speaking in life. So this is my advice. Every topic that you study, that you learn, practice on presenting that in a simple way to convey maximum message in minimal time.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Victor. It was a pleasure talking with you, and I hope that anybody who watches this learns some insights on how to prepare for the data migration. I think it's very often an overlooked part, and there's not that many resources actually to study for it out there. But thank you so much, Victor, and talk to you later.
Thank you so much. Good luck.